Hey everyone, ahlan wa sahlan fikum. Today we're going to take a look at the words we use in Palestinian Arabic to talk about time. We're not just going to ask what time is it, we're going to dive into all the concepts you'll need to know to organize events in time. To say now, before, after, never, always, and much more. First, let's talk about the word time itself. There's actually 3 different words for time in Arabic. First we have zaman, which refers to the concept of time, especially in terms of its duration. So it's more of an abstract word, and in the dialect it's mainly used to suggest a very long period of time, as in ma shuftu min zaman. But the word you'll be using most often for time is waqt. Unlike zaman, which emphasizes the duration of time, waqt refers more to a moment in time or a specific time. For example, ijat al-waqt nrawah. The third word for time is marra. But this one is actually totally different from zaman and waqt because it's actually a counter for time. Marra is once or one time, martain is twice or 2 times, and so on. In fact, that's why marrat, the plural, means sometimes. You can see more about marra in my video about the words for something, everything, and nothing, where I talk about all the different ways you can use it. Now you're probably wondering, how do I ask what time is it? Well, there's actually a couple of different ways that you can say it. But the most common one doesn't even use the word for time at all. Think about it, when you ask what time is it, you're really asking what hour the clock is marking. So in Arabic, we use the word sa'a, which means both hour and clock. So we ask adesh as-sa'a, how much is the hour? Meaning, of course, what time is it? After covering those basics, there's another question we still need to answer. Emta. Emta is a word for when in the dialect, and it can be spelled in a couple of different ways. But anyway, to answer it, let's start by saying now. There are famously many different words in the Arabic dialects to say now, which are actually different contractions of different phrases. So in Palestine, the main word for now is halla, which is itself a contraction, like an extreme contraction of hada al-waqt. So as you can see, the original meaning was this moment in time, or indeed the present. By the way, since halla ultimately comes from waqt, some people actually spell halla with a qaf, or even with a hamza to represent the missing qaf. Although the spelling with the qaf isn't that common in Palestine, you do see it every once in a while, but anyway, it's all the same word. The second most common word for now in Palestine is issa, which is actually a contraction of issa, the hour. I say the second most common, but it's actually the main word in the north of Palestine, so it's more of a regional difference. So in Haifa and Nazareth, you'll hear issa, whereas in Jerusalem and Amman, halla is used. Regardless, issa is still a really important word because it's the core element of the word lissa, which everyone in Palestine uses, even those who say halla. Basically, we're just taking the letter lam, meaning to, and adding to it issa. So lissa means until now, or better yet, still. For example, أنا لسه قاعد بالبيت. I'm still sitting at home. Or lissa ma sma'at ishi minnu. I still haven't heard anything from him. So actually, lissa by itself means still. But if you use lissa in a negative sentence, then it's like saying not yet, as in I haven't heard anything from him yet. Careful though, you can never just have lissa ma by itself without anything for the ma to negate. So if someone asks you, قريت الكتاب? Have you read the book? Then the answer, if you still haven't read the book, is just lissa. Even though technically it means still, the haven't is implied, because if you had read it, then you would have just said yes anyway. So even lissa by itself can mean not yet in the right context. Just pay attention to how the word is used and you'll get the hang of it. By the way, speaking of now and the present, I want to quickly give you 2 words, the past and the future. The future is al-mustaqbal. It's a nice word that comes from the verb to receive, but it's not terribly useful. What's really good to know is al-madi, meaning the past. And the reason it's good to know is because madi is also used as an adjective, meaning the last or previous thing. For example, انبسطت كتير الأسبوع الماضي. I had a lot of fun last week. Of course, now I have to give you the word jay, which means the next thing, as in بشوفكم المرة الجاي. You may know that jay is actually the active participle of the verb ija, meaning to come. So الأسبوع الجاي actually means the coming week. Okay, now let's organize events in time with the words before and after. These are the same as in Fusha, so before is قبل and after is بعد. We can also say بعد شوي, which is equivalent to كمان شوي, meaning in a little bit or in a little while, whereas بعدين means afterwards or later. Anyway, as in English, قبل and بعد usually go before a noun. For example, أنا كل يوم بشرب قهوة قبل الشغل, or تعبت بعد الاجتماع. However, if you want to use these with a verb, then you have to attach the term ما after the word. For example, قبل ما أدرس, before I study. Notice that the ma here is completely different from the ma of negation. In the sentence ما بدرس, I don't study, the ma is modifying the verb by negating it. But in the sentence قبل ما أدرس, The ma is telling us that you're using the verb to qualify or frame the word that comes before it. In this case, you're telling me, before what? Well, before I study. That's why unlike ma badros, the phrase قبل ما أدرس uses the subjunctive form without the ba, because the action of studying is actually not happening in the sentence at all. And it's not just قبل and بعد that work this way. Take the word أول, which means first. If you say أول ما أصحى, it's like saying the first thing upon waking up. So أول ما da 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 means as soon as blah blah blah. And it's not just when talking about time. You can also have زي ما توقعت, as I expected, or even شو ما بدك, whatever you want. Saying these terms using context is really the best way to understand them, so I recommend watching my annotated transcript videos if you want some more examples in context. Anyway, to conclude, I'm going to give you a few really common adverbs. Always, usually, sometimes, and never. Actually, we already learned sometimes, which is مرات. As for always, it's actually the same as in فسحة, دايما. هو دايما مشغول. He's always busy. In fact, it's common to use دايما as an exaggerated way of saying often. Another way of saying often, usually or normally, is عادة. Notice that the tan ending comes from a tanween fatha on the ta marbuta because it's actually an adverb from the noun عادة, which means a habit. So عادة literally means habitually. Lastly, the opposite of دايما is أبدا. Although abadan is used in the dialect, it's a very strong word that has other connotations such as under no circumstances, by no means, or absolutely not. So in addition to abadan, the more casual بالمرة is also used to say never. Okay, now I'm going to give you a couple of sentences about my everyday life just to practice some of the words that we've just learned. أنا كل يوم أول ما أصحى بشرب شوية مي وبعدين أقوم أتحمم ودايما بسمع موسيقى وأنا بتحمم. هالفترة أنا مش شايف عائلتي بالمرة فصرت أحكي تليفون معهم ساعات بالقليل مرة بالأسبوع. بس المشكلة هي التوقيت. مثلا هلأ الساعة هون هي 10 بس بكولومبيا هي لسه 5 فهم لسه مش صاحيين. فعادة بحكي معهم بالليل بعد اجتماعاتي لليوم. خلاص اجت الوقت نخلص الفيديو. Okay, those were just a few sample sentences to show you how common and important these words are. Again, if you want more examples, join me for the annotated transcript videos where you can see everything in action. Anyway, بشوفكم المرة الجاي. أهلا حبايبي وشكرا للجماعة اللي بيحضروا القناة. إذا بدكم تكملوا تشوفوا هالفيديوز اعملوا سبسكرايب، وإذا شفتوني مؤخرا تفضلوا روحوا شوفوا الفيديوز الماضية بالبلاي ليست. وتذكروا إني عملت مصادر لتعلم اللهجة الفلسطينية تقدروا تلاقوها بالموقع تبعي اللي مكتوب تحت بالديسكريبشن. وبشوفكم المرة الجاية.